Reallyfe 3 stars. Man, we have a very, very special situation here. We have the Velvet, there's adjectives I want to throw out there, but what I want to do is I want to be able to say for what the world knows and what the world sees, you've been part of an overarching storyline, and you kind of been at the, let's say, the center of it. And, it's funny how narratives get thrown out there and things get said. And as everything happens, you want to be able to speak your piece, and you have spoken your piece on your own platforms, but we want to be able to give you kind of this platform for this narrative for anyone who ever has something to say about, your involvement with Carbonation, with Natureboy, with Solar, and everything else. So let's do it like this. Let's start off with who Velvet is. Let's start with where you were born, who is your family, how you were raised, and I want to kind of lead up to what Carbonation situation was for you and your interest in that. But let's start with your beginning. Where are you from?
I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm currently 25. Actually, I'm 26. Just made 26 in February.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. That's new for me, right?
Yeah. You're over a milestone now. You're like, I don't know what they consider 26, but you're at that point, right, past 25.
Exactly. Which I've, matured, over time. But living in New Orleans was pretty crazy, and it was not my vibe. The way that I grew up in my childhood, my mom and my dad's relationship was pretty toxic. So my grandmother, I have a lot of history and a lot of relation and memory from my grandmother raising me, which she always allowed me to go outside. She always let me go run into nature. I was always kind of like that child that was pulled from the bunch, because I've 4 sisters and 4 brothers. So I was. Were
you a middle or?
So the girls were born first. I was the 3rd girl that was born, and then my little sister and then my brothers came. But I was always pulled from the bunch because I was named after my auntie, which was my dad's sister. She passed away when she was an infant, and my mom couldn't find any other name to give me but that name.
So your real name is Velvet?
My real name is Velvet Gabriella. I was named after my aunt. And so my grandmother took a special liking to me, not any favoritism, because she treated all of us the same, but because of that dynamic, I was like that child, that special child in a sense. So that's why I have that memory. And the way that my grandmother raised me, that's where I felt like I got all of the love that I needed as a child and the nurture. But when my family got split up after some time, my mom and my dad got split up after some time, I stopped seeing my grandma, which stopped that dynamic between me and my grandma to continue to flow. And because I was the oldest, after my mom and dad got a divorce, because I was the oldest, I became the mother of my younger siblings.
Wow.
So I was like taking care of them, sending them off to school, doing their hair at 11. I started at 11 years old. A lot of people don't know that from 11 years of age up until 17 years of age, I was a mother.
That explains some things.
And with that being the dynamic of my early childhood, I had no choice but to think like an adult. So it made me think about other things that a child wouldn't think about, like spirituality, what's in the world. And my parents, because they had their own things going on, they weren't pouring into me like, you should know this, you should know that, it was other things that they had going on that they were dealing with emotionally that took away from raising me the way that I technically needed to be. And so with that being the case, I spurred off. When I was 17, I ran away from home. And by the time I was 17, I actually was into major organizations in my community. There was a group called Rethink that I got into, And that was more of like a cultural, economic type of or reform group. So I was like in communities, like talking to people like we should be thinking like this, we should be living like this, you know, going to high schools and talking to the high schoolers like you should really focus on your education and XYZ and why it's important. And so I made a big name for myself within Rethink alone. They actually put a memorial of me. I wasn't even passed away yet.
Wow.
I'm probably it's still there. This was in 2015, 2016.
Wow.
A picture of me with a dissertation like this girl is amazing, you know, at 17, 18. Following that, I joined an organization called Groundwork. That's global. That's like more of an agricultural type of organization where I actually have went from different states in the United States because of this group to focus on economic development, you know, over the world. And so I was always into nature. I was always into agriculture. So by the time I decided to go to college, which I was like in my mind, graduating high school, which I graduated alone. I graduated myself. My parents had no involvement with me graduating from high school because of the divorce, because of the dynamic, because of me running away. I pushed my family away. It was way too toxic for me. So when I thought about like what I wanted to do further my education after high school, I was completely over education because I'm like, these schools are not teaching me what I need to know. If you would have replaced this class with maybe agriculture or maybe with like me learning Spanish or something like that, you give me another opportunity, another avenue to learn through, maybe I could be better at school. But you know, I wasn't failing. I wasn't a failure. It was just that I felt like the schooling system wasn't giving me enough to work with, you know, to learn from. And so I was like, I don't know if college is healthy. I don't know if that's something that I want to do. And I've always heard stories of my friends and my other sisters and, you know, people that I knew saying that once they got into college and they chose a profession that they had to switch it and change it because once they started studying it and how the schooling teaches it to you, they're uninterested. So I'm like, why would I go invest my time? And, you know, these are my thoughts at a young, you know. So by that time, 17 years old in the 12th grade, my parents, runaway, I'm constantly talking to the counselors. From 9th grade to 12th grade, I was always in the counselor's office, talking to the counselors like, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Like, this is crazy, right? But by the time, you know, that situation happened, by the time I ran away, my school pulled in my parents for a parent-teacher conference to talk about my emotional distress. And because I was so much into nature, I didn't know that there was a program. Like, I didn't know that you can go to school for agriculture. Like, I didn't know that. So I'm like, scratch school. I don't want to go to school. I just want to go live in nature. I want to go learn about nature. And my parents are looking at me like, yo, she's like, we don't know. Like, is she going to be a bum? Like, this is what I experienced in the 12th grade, sitting at a parent-teacher conference. You know, my family's like, they don't even know that you can go to school for agriculture. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
so there's a
right.
dynamic that's like out of the loop. So my teachers are so concerned about me to the point where there was a pep rally. We had a pep rally and all of the 12th graders had to like express where they wanted to go to school and say the commitment. And I told in front of everybody, the whole audience, I'm like, look, I'm not dedicated to any college, but I want to further my skills and my profession in agriculture. Right there the same day, there was a Tuskegee alumni, and he actually gave me a scholarship to go to Tuskegee University. Right there, then in that day, they enrolled me in the college, got in a HBCU, and I pushed myself forward to go to school. My mom actually supported me and drove me to school, and that's when I started my agricultural education, and I was passing, flying colors. Math, not good at math. That's not a good subject for me. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie. So I was failing at math and I was also failing at history because I knew that they were lying. I didn't know why, I didn't know how,
Right.
but I knew that they were lying and I couldn't retain it. And I'm the type of person, if I can't retain something, I'm not doing it. And I didn't know at the time that you could drop out, you could drop classes and pick up new classes. So I just dropped out completely. But this was upon my discovery of carbonation on Facebook, you know, all the children on internet. So while I'm in college, studying agriculture, I'm on Facebook, on the feed, looking at agricultural stuff. And this carbonation popped up.
Yeah, what are you seeing?
At the moment, it was of Natureboy, and he was on the live with Yaya at the time, his wife at the time, and they were talking about living in tune with nature, being vegan, why it's important to, disconnect yourself from certain things. I didn't look at it as too extreme, because for me personally, that was something I was already doing without the influence of Natureboy. So I was like, wow, so I clicked on his page, and that spurred me to, research a little bit. And that's when I came into contact with the group, and I saw there was like profiles of different people who were in that same circle or culture or tribe or whatever. And I started going to look at everybody else's pages, and everybody else was like living it up in nature. Everybody was eating fruit. And not only were people think that they were just living out there, but what I saw was when I started studying these people that was in that group, they were giving knowledge behind why they were eating the fruit that they were eating, why they were living in tune with nature the way that they were, why they were disconnecting from Babylon, as they would say. Like, they were giving the information of why, instead of just like posting it like, yeah, eating fruit is great,
Right.
So, and I'm an information-based person, so that was cool to me, but I was very young also, so I never thought to like do background checks and like go look at him, like his past, I wasn't
Living in the moment.
And I'm already depressed with life. I'm like, bruh, like this ain't even it. Like I'm in school, but I really don't want to be in school. I'm passing my classes, but it's draining to me, So at that particular moment, I'm like, wow, this would be nice. I never thought to like go out there or live with them, but I was like, it would be nice to live a life where I can actually see myself thrive and also become more knowledgeable about what it is that I actually want to do and pursue in my life. And so I got into contact with one of the members that were there that were connected to Natureboy.
You reached out, or?
Yeah, I reached out to them. But Natureboy, me and Natureboy had never had any type of interaction, at this point. And so it was a guy, because he was the only person that I saw there that I could potentially have a connection with, whether it was platonic or romantic. So when we started talking, I was like asking him about his life. I'm asking, and this is what you do on the internet. You reach out to people, you connect, right? So this is what I'm doing. And one thing led to another. And astrology is big. So he's telling me his signs and this and that. And it seems like we have a lot in common. So our relationship evolved into a romantic relationship. Even still, it's about 2 weeks in, me and this guy is talking. Still haven't talked to Natureboy. Still haven't really know who the leader is. I don't even know that there is a leader. I didn't even know none of that. But the guy, he's like, you have to go through Natureboy. You have to talk to him first to come through. And I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, what do you mean talk to him? I'm talking to you. Like, we're together. Like, what do you mean? And so, lo and behold, like underneath wraps, there was actually another member. It was the Yaya wife at the time. She actually, but I never made the correlation until I actually had to reach out to Natureboy to get through to him to go or to come, right? Yaya, she messaged me like some time, I think before I reached out to the guy, Omek or whatever. I think it was either a little bit before or after. I don't even remember, but she reached out to me and she was telling me how beautiful I was and, like complimenting me in so many words. And so I'm like, okay, like I get that all the time. So it's not like it's anything new to me. But I guess that was her way of starting a conversation. But if we don't have nothing to talk about, I'm not going to, fast forward. That was Natureboy's incentive. He used her to message me to say like, I want you to be my wife. But her at the time, she never was into the wife dynamic. And throughout the story, you'll be able to get more just into the story of how it actually played out. But Yaya never was with it because of the emotional, verbal, and spiritual and physical abuse that he was doing behind closed doors at the time. So she never was like, I want you to be, she never did what he told her to do. She was just messaged me just to make it seem like she was trying. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, yeah. And so Natureboy, I guess, like after some time, I found out that it was some friction between him and Omek because Nature Boy wanted me to come, but he didn't want me to come because he wanted me to be with him, but I wanted to be with Omek. And it was like a dynamic that I had no idea of. And Omek didn't either. So Nature Boy was doing a lot of stuff behind closed doors that nobody was aware about. So eventually, because I was so persistent and consistent with the relationship that I had from jump, Nature Boy was like, all right, cool, she can come. So I get there, I go there, I drop out of college, I go there. Because I'm failing college at this point.
Yeah, you're failing, and where are you going? Where are they at now?
They are in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, okay.
Yeah. And so I get there, and there's like we get to this restaurant. He takes us all out to eat. And there's this conversation about me being sure about what it is that I want. And if anybody knows Velvet, or rather get the time to get to know me, you will know that I know what I want. I might not have certain details because I'm still young and I'm figuring it out and I'm perfecting my ideas as I go, but I know what I want. So I'm having this conversation with him in front of the tribe, in front of Omek, and he's like, you sure you want to be with Omek? You sure? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah.
Who's asking that?
Nature Boy.
Okay.
To me and Omek. He's asking me about Omek, like, are you sure you want to be with him? You sure you don't want to be with somebody else? You know, trying to like spin it like that. And I'm like, I said I wanted to be with Omek. I said I'm with Omek, and I'm currently with him. That's what it is. That's what it's going to be. All right, cool, blah, blah, blah. We get it. You know, fast forward. I was never close enough to Nature Boy to know that he was physically and emotionally, verbally, and spiritually abusing the women that he was around. I was always with the guys. I was a guy. I was in the field going get fruit and bringing it back to the home so that we can eat fruit. I was going to the waterfalls, harnessing water with the guys and bringing it back. And now me and these guys, our dynamic was so cool to the point where I could be shirtless, topless, and these guys wouldn't even like look at me wrong or me feel like they was trying. That's how cool the dynamic was, right? In this situation.
Right.
But it started to get really tricky and weird because Nature Boy was he was teaching us that we should do certain things like be topless, like be, you know, open to being in relation with other people if it doesn't work out with the relationship you were currently in. You know, there was always a massaging, like persuasive type of vibe going on when it came to that dynamic. So the relationship with me and Omek got really sticky because Nature Boy will pull both of us to the side and tell Omek one thing and tell me one thing. Like he'll tell Omek she doesn't really want to be with you, or she really likes me, or whatever the case may be, or you know she did this or she did that, or try to twist something and manipulate something to try to make it seem like I didn't want to be with him, and he would do it vice versa. He would tell me like, Omek doesn't want to be with you. He doesn't care about you. It was like that at an all-time high. So this relationship with me and Omek lasted for a duration of 9 months.
Oh, wow.
I humbly and honorably got out of that relationship with Omek because at that juncture of me breaking up with him, I knew that it wasn't going to work out. And the last thing that I'm into is leading people on. So I broke up with him.
You knew it was going to work out because of what?
Because of the dynamic between him, Nature Boy, me. Omek was also on the verge of like unraveling his mind from the cult. So like while he was unraveling his mind, I was raveling in.
Right. So Nature Boy, what he's saying, and I have to ask you is, are you intrigued with him and what he's saying based on his persuasion of what's going on? Like, hey, he's not liking you and you're not, this ain't a fit.
No.
So
I'm completely looking at Nature Boy like, this is my father. This is a father figure. This is somebody, I'm 21. This guy's like 34, 35, 36. I'm not looking at no grown ass man. I'm young as fuck. I'm not looking at no man. You know what I'm saying? I'm wanting to be with somebody that's my age. I'm looking at myself as even a teenager. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not thinking about it like that. I'm not even thinking that he's trying to get with me. because number one, I have no experience being social because I've always been in the home. I've always been around other kids. I've always been taking care of other kids. So my dynamic with being social is off, at this point. That's like one of my first real interactions outside of being in college. And I never really was social in college because everybody was doing shit that I didn't do. I didn't party. I didn't do the thing, that college kids do. So, moving forward, me and Omek, we get out of the relationship. He winds up leaving like the next day. And I decided to be on my own. And I said, I want to be single. And I want to, be solo. Nature Boy, on the other hand, when I tell you, bro, this nigga love bombed the shit out of me. I didn't even know what that was until...
Like the next day, or like Omek is leaving, and when you say love, like how quickly does he attack?
I break up with Omek. Like right now, I break up with Omek. 5 minutes later, like after me and Omek's done having a conversation, Nature Boy's like telling one of his wives or one of the women that's close to him, go tell her I like her cookies. Go tell her I like the scarf she's wearing. Go tell her I like the wrap she's wearing. Go tell her that she's doing good in the curriculum. Go, and these women are coming to me like, Nature Boy really likes you, like making it cool, making it a thing. And I'm like, I just got out of a relationship. In my mind, I'm like, I just got out of a relationship, I'm trying to focus on the knowledge because that's what I went there for. Regardless of me getting into a relationship with Omek at the initial point, the entire relationship that me and Omek had revolved around the knowledge. This nigga would literally teach me everything. And I would be like, I got that. I know that. I understand that. And if it was something that I didn't know, it was like being reminded because most of the information that's being talked about is something that is already innate inside of me, and which is why I want to be in nature in the first place. So with that being the case, moving forward and to fast forward just a little bit in the story, I wound up making the decision to be with Nature Boy because he's love bombing me so hard. I feel like I'm backed in a corner with like a guy being like, I love you. I want to be with you. I love you. I want to be. I'm like, okay, well, if you love me, all right, cool. Like, let's get together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let's do it. Love. That's the honest truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's do it. He's currently in a relationship, Nature Boy. He's currently in a relationship with 3 women. Those women, from my understanding now, looking back, every woman that he's ever gotten with was never based off of any value. It was never based off of what that woman could have offered. It was never based off of having children with those women. It was strictly off of having sexual relations with them, just to sleep with them, just to experience them because of whatever fanatical fetish he has.
There was like a body, face, sexual tendencies? Like
yes.
What? Oh, okay.
That's what I feel with Nature Boy. It had no substance. Any relationship he has ever gotten in had no substance. So when I got into that dynamic, I went into a polygamous relationship knowingly. Got into that dynamic. If you've ever watched me on my own blossom and grow without the drama, I'm a literal flower. I have so many skills and talents. I still have even unraveled within myself because of the drama, because of the chaos. So with that being the case, these women naturally felt intimidated because what I realized, and even within myself at some point in time, the reason why I was even able to be with Nature Boy was because of some type of low self-esteem that I had within myself, or trying to find love in all the wrong places, or, just not be confident within myself, like to exactly know, and then on another spin to it as well, is because of my lack of experience in the world as well. So I tied both of those together, but I said that to say this: those women, from what I've experienced, they didn't have no self-esteem. That's the truth. I was the woman in these situations in every single instance, from the woman that I got into it with in the first place, in the beginning of our relationship, to the motherfucking end. I was the one to tell these women, you're good at this. You obviously are doing it. You're good at that. Be happy with that. Hone into that. That is your gift. That is your skill. Stop trying to be like me. Stop trying to be like her. This is what you do. And when you're a collective, when you're a community, when you're a family, you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses and you know your opponents, or not even opponents, but you know your family members, and you guys come together on your strengths and you guys work it out with your weaknesses. That's what you do.
So I have to ask you, do you feel like Carbonation and Natureboy, just in general, Carbonation, that they pulled in women who had those weaknesses or who had those insecurities or who were weaker in a sense? Do you feel like that was the overall goal of the women that you've seen that was within the nation?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think Natureboy thrived off the fact that he could reel in women who didn't see their own self-worth. Because for a mind like his, those type of men with those personality characteristics, they target women who have come from broken families, who have daddy issues, who have mommy issues, who have childhood trauma, who, it's that's easy prey. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so I don't look down upon any of these women because of their weaknesses, because I have mine too. My thing was coming out of our weaknesses and knowing our strengths. But because I've already realized some of my strengths coming into Carbonation, those women were intimidated because I was already naturally in my strengths. I'm doing it. I'm being it. I'm actively living it. So those women exited the relationship. They couldn't handle. And because I was me, Natureboy was falling in love with me. He didn't want to fall in love with me. He fell in love with me because I am who I am. He fell in love with who I was, Right. And then on another note, fell in love with an idea of who he thought he could turn me into. See, which he didn't know that he could never turn me into the person who he thought he could. But those women left the relationship. I was still there for them. I didn't make fun of them. I never made them feel like shit or anything like that. I just kept it moving, But for some reason, Natureboy, always had the mind and the idea and the heart to want to turn these women against each other. Not even towards me, but to each other. And so he would talk to each woman individually, have sex with them, and pour into them like great things, and then tell the next woman she ain't shit. And then so the next one would be in competition with the other women, and then the other woman is just messy and chaotic.
So I have to ask, let's just get perspective. You were in Carbonation for how long? Let's just say.
About the same amount of time, about like 4 years.
4
from
years.
2017 to 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say this. You end up becoming Natureboy's main, I guess you could say, wife. And is that wife on paper, or is it just wife?
This is wife in real life.
Like
this
wife
is
in
legal.
real life. Like there's a ceremony, or there's a like how does it work? Like
I could tell you the story.
Please.
So fast forwarding. After those women left, it was me and Natureboy in a monogamous relationship for an extended amount of time. That's where he got me really open to like trust him and like have the idea to be polygamous with him and take on new wives. So as we were going through that process over time, I started to like allow these women to come in, but I never had a say so. I never got to choose these women. I never really got a chance to know these women prior to coming into the relationship. So I was always at odds with him. And so that turned really physically abusive. So because he didn't want me to leave and he didn't want me to like have my own things and be my own person, he would confiscate my passport, all my documentation, all my identification. He would take it. So over the years, fast forward in 2020, I believe that was 2020. Over the course of all these years, he had my documentation. And one day he came to me with my documentation confiscated all the way over there somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Wow.
He comes to me one day and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna marry you." After 3 years of talking to me about why marriage isn't important, why we shouldn't get married, why it is, denouncing spirituality. And I'm like, "You wanna marry me? For real?
Wow.
And in my mind, I'm planning my escape. This is in 2020. April of 2020. I didn't successfully escape until November of 2020.
COVID just hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So he's telling me this, and I'm like, but wait, what about knowledge? I'm like, we can't get married. That goes against everything you just said. That goes against everything. So I'm trying to talk him out of his idea. He's like, no, because if I get into trouble, if I get into this or I get into that, you can get me out. You'll take the flag for whatever it is that I'm doing. I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get away before this nigga marry me.
As a play versus.
Yes.
Oh wow.
He said this to me, and then the next day he comes to me and he's like, we're just gonna make it a group thing. I'm gonna get them married. 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 And I'm like, this is a total fucking disaster.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. And I want to go back. You mentioned before the abuse, you got with Natureboy. I have to ask you, when did the abuse start and what was that abuse early on?
The abuse started when I was about 3-4 months pregnant.
How far in the relationship were you pregnant? Like, I know you said 4 years overall, but how far were you into?
I was about a year, maybe 2-3 months in in the actual situation. Like a year and 3 months. Yeah. In the actual situation.
9 months, you're no longer with
right.
the first situation. Now you're with Natureboy, and that's it happening. So about a few months, within a year after being with Natureboy, you're pregnant now.
Yeah.
And you're 3 months pregnant. And like if you could talk about the first instance where you felt like, what's going on?
Well, at this point, when I realized, because at first I didn't realize it because he was never physical. Like at first, when it first started, the abuse first started, he was never physical. He was always emotional and verbal. But I never looked at that as abuse because I come from that. I grew up with that. That became a normal thing in my mind. So one day we was living in Belize, and it was a situation where a woman came, the girl Kendra, Sheba, she came to Belize, and he wanted to be in a relationship with her, and I said no, and I was completely against it. She was a virgin at this time, and he wanted to take her virginity, and he told me that he wanted to do that, and I was like, you're not doing that, not on my watch. And he physically abused me right then and there, and this was about 3-4 months pregnant, and from that initial moment, it was all he wrote, rather. And that's when I started experiencing physical abuse from him.
So, Bev, I have to ask you, what was your reaction to that physical abuse? Because sometimes in relationships, based on how you react is how things will continue or carry on. What was your initial reaction upon that initial situation?
I was fighting his ass back. Like, we was fighting. So this led to him being more extreme. Like, if you, hypothetically speaking, you physically abuse somebody and they back down, you're not going to abuse them because they backing down unless you're a real psychotic person and want to abuse that. But that wasn't the case. He physically abused me to a small degree. And I was like, you ain't gonna hit me, period. Like, so I'm fighting him. Like, we fighting. But now he's choking me out. Cause he need to get me to stop trying to fight him back. Now he's like trying to exile me from existence because I'm trying to fight him back. So in my mind, and at this juncture still has my documents confiscated all the way over there somewhere where I don't know. I'm like, okay, how can I not be in a situation where I'm gonna get strangled and not get abused? So it always turned into me doing what he wanted me to do, but I could never get with it. So it will always be physical and then ending in him choking me out and blacking out. And then waking up and being like, I still don't have my documentation. I'm 5 months pregnant now. I'm 6 months pregnant now. I'm 7 months pregnant now. Still don't have my documentation. I'm 7 months pregnant now. I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm having a baby now. I still don't have my document. How the fuck I'm gonna get out of how I'm gonna leave? Still also while not wanting to do the things that he wanted me to do. So I'll just back down and be like, you know what? Fuck everybody. I don't even care. But my body is shutting down. I'm shutting down. So he's angry with me because I can't physically perform with him or be with him. So he's forcing me at this point with the women, without the women. And I'm sitting there like, I want to leave. So I'm going through this tug of war online because he's recording me, making it seem like to the world that I'm just crazy and I don't really know what I want. But he's got all my shit confiscated. We in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. I'm pregnant. I have no communication with my family for almost 2 years at this point. You know? So I'm just like, this was in the beginning though. You know, after I had Eliana, that's when I started thinking about, I really want the father, you know, because I'm not thinking, as I'm having her, I'm not thinking that he's actually like crazy. I'm not thinking like this man will try to do anything to destroy me. I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking that he's just coming from trauma just like me. And I have to give him grace. I have to love him through his pain. I have to love him through his trauma. And that was one of his big things too. Like, you have to stay by your black man's side. You can't leave him. You can't give up on him. You got to go through some things to, you know, love doesn't come easy. And I'm in one of those states and I'm like, I'm considering, you know, considering him, considering Ellie. So I'm putting myself on the back burner and taking on things that I shouldn't necessarily have to because I want him to be better. And I also want a future for my child that I technically never had as a child. I'm fighting for that. So I'll stay in a relationship. When I did have a chance to get my documentation, I did leave. But the only reason why I went back 3 times.
To Ohio, or were you leaving to?
Well, this also, over the time span of 4 years, I left maybe about 3 times. And then I went back. Yeah. And the only reason why I went back was because Natureboy would get me on the phone and he would be like, I'm going to not be in this polygamous relationships anymore. We're going to make it work. We're going to do what we have to do to heal from our traumas. You know, sweet talking me, wooing me, you know, being romantic, doing all the things that he can to get me back in his presence. And I'm like, he's already the father of my child. I want to make it work for the sake of my child. So I'm like, all right, cool. Every single time I went back, within a matter of 2 weeks, we was already in a polygamous relationship. He was already physically abusing me. So I'm like, now the first 2 times I left and I went back, I never calculated in my mind that he would do it again. I'm not thinking that he's going to do it again. I'm thinking that we're going to get better. I'm banking on the fact that we're going to get better. We're going to start healing. Man, that 3rd time I went back, the amount of physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional distress that I went through, that was it.
Can you speak on one of the worst times that you kind of dealt with, like
the last time, November, from November of 2020, we were in California, I believe, because we kept getting deported from Costa Rica. We got deported from Costa Rica. We got deported from Mexico. So we would end up back in the States. We were in Las Vegas at the time because we did get married. And he bought me a van because one of my biggest dreams in life was to always be a van lifer. And so he bought me a van to, you know, use that against me. And he drove me in this van back to Mexico. And once we got to Mexico, he decided that we were going to go move to Puerto Rico. And I'm trying to escape the whole time. Like, I'm trying to plan my exodus. So we wind up in Puerto Rico. Fast forward, we wind up in Puerto Rico. And the physical abuse went up a notch. Like him strangling me out has turned into like holding my neck longer, like no oxygen, like hitting me in my face, bust lips, bruise. I'm actually kept away from the tribe and from other people because my face is messed up. And he doesn't want other people to see that because he don't want them to think like he's bad or anything like that. So I'm kept away most of the time. So I'm like, okay. And I'm back in a situation where my documentation is gone. Physical abuse went up a notch. Now I gotta play a mastermind game. How do you play a mastermind game when you're not when you don't use things to your advantage to get what you want? So I'm like, okay, the best thing that I can do in this situation is allow everything to happen. Do all the sexual experience, actually encourage it. Encourage him being with other women. Encourage these women coming in. Encourage these women leaving out. Being in it, I had to sacrifice my own body to get me and my child out safely. So, long story short, I'm doing everything he want me to do. This man is doing and saying things I ain't never heard him say or do ever in the entire experience within a matter of 2 months. I was blown away. You know how much self-control I needed to have to be able to get my documents? So, long story short, when we traveled to Puerto Rico, we left the tribe. So he had to have my documentation in his presence. So I knew where it was. So every single moment, I'm tracking my documentation. I'm like, oh, it's right there. It's all right, cool. Y'all know you can hold it. I know, you got it. You know, making everything cool, kosher. You know, we in the house in Puerto Rico. I'm making plush pallets. I'm like, come on, Aya, come on, Malia, come on. Yeah, let's have a drink. Now he's encouraging smoking and drinking now at this point. So I'm like, one night he's like, let's smoke. I'm like, yes, let's do it. I'm getting everybody drunk. I'm rolling the blunts. Let's get high. I'm lighting them bitches, but I'm acting like I'm smoking. And I'm passing it to them. I'm like, y'all, yeah. I'm making the drinks. I'm popping them open. I'm like, y'all want another drink? Let's get it. Let's have fun. Got the music blasting. He is going crazy. He has a whole bottle of Hennessy. This nigga done damn near drunk the whole bottle of Hennessy. He on social media, on Instagram, going crazy. Like spit coming out his mouth. I'm like, yo, look at this man turn into a fucking demon in front of me. And all of the other women just as oblivious. And I'm like, every single moment that I got to sneak away, I'm packing my things. Let me take this shirt. Oh, he coming. All right, cool. Like, yeah, we having fun. Yeah. Go back in the back, sneak some more things. I'm actually creating a whole situation. He don't know that I already got my passports on lock stash, me and Ellie. Already got them, already done put them. I already done came up and scoped out everywhere. I'm actually got the women outside with me looking around. While they thinking I'm engaging, I'm looking around at my surroundings. Oh, I can escape right there. I can leave right there. Fast forward into the night, they all fall asleep. I'm like, man, they not even about to get up. Everybody about to be hungover. My body naturally gets up at like 6:37. So I get up, and you know how you hungover, and it is not really until about maybe 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning when you in a hangover where you really start getting you really in a deep sleep and you start getting. So I go back to him like, right now it's not the time. 6:30, 7 o'clock a.m., it's not the time. Let him sleep a little more. Let it marinate. So I lay back down. My body get up again at a natural timing. I leave Ellie on the pallet. I get up. I get my bag. And as I'm walking, there's a spot that I did not calculate because I couldn't see. A whole opening, the gate, because he always puts us in gets houses where there's gates around us so that we can't get out. This whole side of the fence is smashed over. I put my bag on the other side of the fence, go upstairs, get Ellie off the pallet. I got my harness sitting on the stairs. I'm putting my harness on, walking. As I'm walking down the steps, putting my baby in the harness, harnessing her to my back, no shoes on my feet, one bag, couple snacks, maybe some crackers and some nuts with some water. Walking in the middle of nowhere, don't speak no Spanish. I'm gone. I'm like, fuck all y'all. I take the phone that he gave me, all that. Give me that. That's mine. I take a couple monies out his wallet and everything. I'm like, that's mine. You know? So I get to where I gotta go.
How far are you walking?
This was like, I wanna say about maybe 4 or 5 blocks. And then I find this opening where it's like this construction site. And I'm like, maybe I can get Wi-Fi right there. So I go try to get Wi-Fi. I'm literally like this with an infant. I'm like trying to get Wi-Fi, got Wi-Fi. Get in contact with a taxi company. I'm like, look, bro, I'm stranded And now, how much it's gonna be to the airport? We 2 hours away from the airport. It's gonna be $100. I'm like, look, I only got $40. He like, all right, I'm gonna just come pick you up. He came pick me up, got to the airport. I deliberately told Natureboy where I was because I wanted him to know that you never gonna see me again, ever. So he come to the airport while I'm there trying to woo me, trying to talk to me. I'm letting him have, I'm telling him everything I wish I would have ever told him in my life. Standing there at the airport, I'm just
He can't take you away.
He can't, because the police there and everything. I'm making sure that everything is cool to the point where he can't do nothing. So the police wound up telling him to leave because he getting irate because I'm letting him have it. He wound up leaving. He like really can't believe that I said no. Like he really can't wrap his mind around it because I always go back and I always fall for his bullshit. Get on that plane. That was the last time he saw me. And I moved forward with protection orders. I have a trail. I have a paper trail still to this day. Court hearings coming up in the next 2 weeks. Divorce, all of that to this day. This net man can never be around me ever again or the child that we gave birth to, period, ever.
So I have to ask you, from that moment to the moment of his arrest, how much time passes to where he's finally arrested, would you say?
So if I escaped in November of 2020 and he got arrested in April of last year, that was 2022, then however long that is, November, couple months, no more than a year.
Upon his arrest, where are you at? What's your status upon your exodus? And when you see his arrest, just give me your mindset as far as seeing this and kind of like your thought process on him finally getting arrested and kind of where you're at in life at this moment.
I'm in Ohio. I lived in a DV shelter, a battered woman shelter, for about 9-10 months prior to getting my first apartment ever. But I'm in my own apartment at this time.
Congrats.
I remember not having really what was I? I was in my second apartment. I had my second, because I was like, it was so many opportunities for me. I was getting so much done. I was like being great and things like that. I was on my second apartment and I was in there and everybody just kept hitting me up like, he got arrested. I'm like, that's great. Now he can't fuck with me no more. Now he can't harass me no more.
He was still reaching out to you in between?
He was just harassing me through other people. He would have the cult members contact me in my inbox saying weird things. He would, people randomly who he knew would be harassing me, sending me death threats, sending me all kind of stuff. Bitch, you're a bad mom, like all kind of stuff. You name it, it was done to me from people that was affiliated with him. And so, yeah, I was like, great. As soon as I could, because the protection order was so hard for me to get, at that juncture of him being arrested, that was exactly what I needed. I took all of my evidence, all of my paperwork, everything that I needed, went to the courthouse in Ohio, presented it to the judge. I was granted a 5-year protection order right then and there.
I have to ask you, you said your body wouldn't function after giving birth and stuff like that. While being married to him, do you feel you were raped or a rape victim while being with him?
Yes, because of the fact that when I would tell him no, and I would be so adamant about it, like, for instance, this is a great example. It wasn't physically penetration, but it was oral, whatever. He put out 2 videos of me giving him head. In those particular videos, prior to that, both times, about 2 to 3 hours prior to that event happening, I'm literally arguing him down like, I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this. Because each instance, he's wanting me to give him head with another woman. And I'm like, bro, you are raggedy as fuck. Like, leave me alone. Like, how about you? I'm telling him, go get another woman. But he insists that it's me. Like, he wants it to be me. And I'm like, no. So he's verbally abusing me, physically abusing me, emotionally abusing me, spiritually, every type of abuse he's doing to me for 2 to 3 hours prior to him recording this video. So at some point, I'm like, I will never stop arguing with him. I have to do this because I will never stop arguing with him. So I'm like, fuck it, let me just get it over with so I can go on about my day. And also I'm still each instant, I'm simultaneously planning my escape also at the same time.
Did it have it to a situation where I heard Natureboy had situations where he was on OnlyFans, he was putting videos on Twitter, he was on Pornhub. Were you aware that he was putting these videos out online and like just like?
I didn't know. Actually, even the videos that he would take of me, I didn't know that he was like he would literally go to recruit women. He would use these videos as like bait. And like these women would watch whatever it was that he sent to them, even if it was a naked picture of me. And I caught him doing it one day because he never really allowed me in his phone. And if he did allow me in his phone, he would always delete things. So at this particular instance, I caught him doing it. And I told him, I said, listen, don't do that. Don't send naked videos and pictures out of me. I'm not comfortable with that. And he's like, all right, I'm not going to do it, blah, 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 blah. But just to fast forward and answer the question, no, I wasn't aware that he was doing these things. I didn't find out until somebody else told me that he was doing it. But I have never seen him put like a sex tape out of me. I don't know if it's out. Actually, I do. And even he lied about that. And that was back in Mexico. He leaked a sex tape of me and Sheba that he forced both of us to do. He forced me and Sheba to do that. Every sex, for me, I can't speak for these other women. For me, any sex tape that was leaked of me, he forced me to do, period. You know, but I didn't know that he was uploading it because he made it seem like other tribe members uploaded the video that was leaked of me. Now, the other two videos that he leaked of me, he deliberately did that after I escaped in November of 2020 because he was fucking mad because I was never coming back. And he had to tarnish and destroy me.
Wow. Do you ever feel like you're going to be able to testify in this trial? Are you planning on testifying in this trial? Do you plan on, have they reached out to you to even consider it?
They have reached out to me for evidence, but they have never reached out to me to say like to testify or anything like that. But if I ever have an opportunity, yeah. Like, you think I'm not? Like, I was there. No one knows that most of my physical abuse was because I was standing up for the fairness and the just of the situation for me and everybody else involved. I fought for Solar and Zoka's relationship. I fought for their baby. I fought for Sheba and True's relationship and their baby. I fought for Aya to have her own relationship. And this is when you see him recording me on camera with videos of yeah, it's Velvet's idea for everybody to be in monogamous relationships. I ain't never tell nobody to be with. Y'all be with who y'all want to be with. I'm just saying that what you think that I'm getting from Natureboy is what you deserve. You deserve a man to love you wholeheartedly, and I deserve the same thing, period. And because Natureboy didn't want that to be, he would physically abuse me because of it. And everybody's looking at me as the demon. Everybody's looking at me as the person that's in between them sleeping with Natureboy. So I'm just like, fuck all y'all. I realized that I was fighting for something that I needed to be really fighting for myself.
I have to ask you, to even have Natureboy's child, Avaya, and even to have it overseas, is that like in a hospital? Like you're going to Puerto Rico? Like how was that experience as far as giving birth for the first time? Because again, you explained your upbringing. This is new to you.
Yeah. To
be able to give birth in another country.
Well, you know, honestly answering that question, the abuse was so intense that so when a woman is pregnant, I don't know if a man can know this or even if men like actually understand this. When a woman is pregnant, she is emotionally tied to her body. I mean, all people should be, men and women. Some people are more than others. But in this instant, I was detached emotionally from me, from my body, from my baby, from my needs. I was completely detached because I was so stressed out. When I actually was in the process of going into labor, giving birth, and I couldn't even experience it. The only thing that I experienced was excruciating pain, like to a degree that I still can't even really describe. It's not even a description or an adjective that I can use to describe it. It's just excruciating pain. And all I know is that it was almost like having an out of body experience. Like kind of your body is just there and your mind is just gone. Like my mind, I couldn't even correlate how much pain. That's how much pain I was in. It was like over the top. Like it was something I was just like, fuck this, I'm gonna die right quick. Like, you know, and I gave birth to my child. Well, I actually had proceeded to get an epidural because it was so painful. Like, bruh, it was so painful, bruh. Lord have mercy.
Hey.
You know, she got poured out with forceps. I was so emotionally detached from my body that my body wasn't even responding to the pregnancy. My body wasn't doing the natural things that it should have been doing while I was in labor. So they had to pull her out because she was dying inside of me. And I was like quite literally dead. Like if they would have never gave me the epidural and pulled her out with forceps, me and her would not be here today.
Wow.
Straight like that.
Wow.
And that was pretty intense because the experience that I thought I was gonna have and the experience that I wanted to have was the complete opposite. So that was pretty painful. Now that I'm able to process it, and now that I'm pregnant again, and I'm emotionally attached to myself, actually, I'm literally crying because I'm like, bruh, I couldn't even.
This was not it. Yeah.
I'm processing it now. My daughter's 4 years old. I'm processing it now.
Wow.
You know?
Wow. You mentioned Solar. I'm just curious. You get out, you have your exodus, you escape. You have your other daughter,
Aviana.
Solar. Mm-hmm. How does he play into your life? How does he play into the picture, and how does he come into it? Y'all were there together. I'm assuming he left himself and you left yourself, because your story doesn't involve Solar, which you're leaving.
Yeah.
But there was, I guess I don't want to call it Carbon Island, but the people who left Carbonation. Mm-hmm. Those people who all left or came, did what they did, left. You're part of one of those who are back in the States now. How are you and Solar coming together in this scenario, and how, like, what is that as far as coming together?
Mm-hmm. So for me, starting off with me, I was in prior to being with him or coming together with him, I was in a state where I was like strictly focused on self-love. I was strictly focused on healing, emotionally healing, womb healing, all of that. I was like going on, like I was like damn near raw vegan. I was like extreme alkaline, and pouring into myself, pouring into my children. And this is when he gives a description of my home being a temple or being like a church, because that's quite literally what I was doing. I was like praying every day. I'm like literally like, I gotta heal, and I was pouring so much into myself to the point where when you are on your healing journey, the trauma comes out. And so my platform has been the avenue that I have shared that trauma and poured and purged, my trauma through and on, for maybe to inspire other people to go through their healing journeys and not beat themselves up in the process. And it was at that juncture when I was like totally into myself. Me and Solar, we had a little connection, but that was only because of Nateri, because I was like considered her friend at the time. But one day there was like so much stuff going on, and like certain things didn't add up to me, because Nateri Janae, she would tell me one thing and I would give her advice, and then she wouldn't take it. And I started realizing that she was lying about certain things about Solar. Like she would call me to talk about Solar to me. And I'm like, I really don't care. I'm not even interested in y'all's relationship. That don't have nothing to do with me. So, everything hit the fan with them. They broke up. Everything hit the fan. And for me, when I have a heart for something, when I feel something is not true, I'll act on that. I move on that. That's the place that I live from. So I reached out to Solar and I was like, you know what, bro, whatever's going on, I just hope you keep your head up. And I had that disposition with everybody who has ever left Carbonation, because, hey, I come from Carbonation and I want the best for all of us at the end of the day. So, I reached out to him. I gave him my condolences for whatever it was that he went through. And I felt for his situation with the child and etc. because I also had my experiences with the child and things like that. And because I had a connection with Nateri and because she was putting me into like a three-way whatever with them, I just felt the need to reach out to him, you know, to give that condolences to him. That sparked off into our relationship. From that moment, we didn't initially be like, oh, maybe we should be together. It was more like we were expressing ourselves to each other. You know, he would express all the things and I'm like, bro, I get it. Like, I share these experiences, you know, so I can only relate to you. And so that moment turned into another moment where we're opening more up and we're realizing that we have more in common than we do have differences. And so I'm like, I actually said it to him. I'm like, something like popped up in my mind and I'm like the way he was expressing himself, it came from such a real place. Like I felt the love that he had inside of him. Like I felt that, you know, and I was like, why am I feeling this? I don't feel like I'm supposed to be feeling this. Like, why am I feeling it? You know, because somebody can express themselves from their heart and you don't feel that love inside of you. But I felt it. And I was like, yeah, so I feel this. I acknowledged it. And he was like, no, maybe we shouldn't, you know. It was like one of those situations. He was like, nah, let's not jump the gun. Let's not, you know, let's just be. And I'm like, all right, cool. You're right. So we did. And then we just kept having conversation after conversation. And at some point we realized that our experiences lined up so interestingly that it was just like a no-brainer. It was like, it became a question. Are we supposed to be together?
Wow.
And so we kept sharing experiences with each other and it just got more intense and more intense and more intense. So we decided to come together. I'm like, I want to see you. I want to see you face to face. Because if I see you face to face, if I see you, then I know it's real.
I'm going to know.
Yeah. When we saw each other face to face, we had on the same shoes. This was not planned. We had on the same shoes. We had on the same jacket.
Damn.
The same jacket. A jean jacket with fur on the collar. How in the fuck, like where? Damn. So I'm looking at the synchronicity and the pattern. That don't just happen. So I'm like, mind you, I'm also considering his role that he played in my life without being in a romantic relationship with him. This man has gotten me everything that I needed before my pregnancy and after. He was taking care of me. Everything Natureboy was supposed to be doing for me, he did from a distance, from afar.
Wow.
So I considered those things too, because I'm like, that's considerable. When you are going through things in life, you consider everything. You don't just consider one aspect just because, you know what I'm saying? So that was that or whatever, but we have had our down moments because there is so many odds and there's so many like disillusions and there's so many like outside influences and many people will have this certain like vision of me and they're like, she doesn't deserve love at all. And I'm like, what the fuck did I ever do to any of you bitches? I didn't do shit to nobody. I deserve love. I'm gonna give myself that, period. Like the world doesn't even like me loving myself.
Damn.
Because of this shit from carbonation.
So I have to ask you then, I seen a live video to where you were laying in Solar's lap and you were looking up at him. And the way you were looking at him, I'm just curious, did you ever look at Eligio that way? Did you ever look at Natureboy that way?
That's a very good question. I always get the question, was I ever in love with Natureboy? Or am I in love with Natureboy? I always get that question. For me, I feel that I fell in love with an idea. So when I looked at Solar the way that I did in that video, I did look at Natureboy in certain instances. And I feel like it was only because of the idea that I fell in love with. I don't think that love that I had was real, because when you're in love with an idea of something, that's not love. That's not real. You know, whether I knew it or not. That's not real.
I was searching.
You know, so I feel like what I have with Solar is real. I feel like what we go through is real.
You just mentioned that you have, you're now pregnant. You just said that, you know, and again, if no one caught, whether they seen this interview or Solar's interview prior to this, you are now expecting a third child. And Solar, and you are now how many weeks pregnant?
7.
First and foremost, congratulations on just the journey that it takes to get to this point. Congratulations on the feeling and the euphoria of doing it the right way. You can't.
Yeah, I'm crying.
You can't pay for that.
I'm like crying.
Yeah, you can't.
Like,
Pay
I don't
for
even
that.
know.
You can't pay for that kind of joy. So definitely congratulations. Again, as we did interview Solar earlier, and we talked about the carbonation thing. We're just scratching the surface of what really went on throughout the whole thing, and to even have your story, there's many other stories to be told throughout that situation. But to even have you come here and be brave enough to be able to speak on the story, and again, speak so eloquently. You know, Velvet was a name that people would hear about, and then we would see you, but we don't understand the inner working. It's like an onion. You got to peel those layers back, and to be able to get these kind of layers, man, I'm just, dumbfounded about just everything that you had to do to go through it. I was telling Solo, I'm like, man, your life should be a movie, but again, even your situation as far as raising your family at 11 years old, getting to leave the country, getting your passport, and just leaving school, that's a story in itself, and then what you experience afterwards. I can only commend you for even doing what you've done. I want to end with this, man. I'm just curious, man. Do you believe, or more so, what are your beliefs? Do you have faith? Do you believe in faith? Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in Illuminati? Do you believe, where do you land in the prospect of how things are supposed to go?
I believe in faith. That has been the trajectory of my life. That has been something that has always showed its face in my life, in any instant, even when I turned away from it. The way that I grew up was in a church, but it wasn't really the church that mattered to me. It was more so the connection and the relationship that I had with God. We have all of these different religions, and we call God all of these different names, but there is one source, whether we like to know that or not, or believe that or not. And so I have a relationship. I personally feel like I have a relationship with that source. And because I have had a relationship with that source, and I have been faithful in the knowing that the source will provide whatever it is that I need moving forward on my journey, whether I make the right decision, wrong decision, whatever decision, as long as I'm leaning into what my heart is saying and I'm having faith in what my heart is saying, that I will never be led astray. And I haven't. Even in instances where it seemed like, or it looked like I have always been led to greater things, better things, prosperous things. And I have literally saw God show up in my life. I have seen the Holy Trinity pop up in my life, and there is no denying that, period.
No, that's real.
And that's what I believe in.
I have to ask you.
And I believe in prayer. That's super important.
No, hey, we are. We are. Mama D. Mm-hmm. As far as her situation and your overall story, where does it land? I'm just curious.
Mama Dia was the most beautiful person I ever met in my entire life. She was such a mother to me. When Mama Dia came into the picture, this was one of the moments where I was being physically abused at an all-time high. One of the most traumatic experiences. This was I think she was there at the time. I don't know if you guys heard the story where I cut my hair and stuff like that. At some point in carbonation, I cut my hair. It was real toxic. But she came in at a very intense time of me being physically abused. And like I said, I was always pulled away from the group because of the scarring and the everything like that. So I was in a tower. Mama Dia, come to me with towels. She would come to me with clean linen. She would come to me with my food. She would come to me to conversate with me. I had no idea that she was going through what she was going through. I had no idea she even had a heart condition. I never had a conversation with her to get to know her. I didn't even know half of the people that was there, or their backstories, or their lives, or where they came from, or their hometowns.
You didn't want to know, or you just was put away from
It
that?
was just, I was just put away. And there was the relationship that me and Natureboy had was so toxic that it revolved around the toxicity. Everybody revolved around the toxicity because I was always like, this ain't right. This is not right. And Natureboy didn't want me to say that out loud. So he had to squash me. He had to shut me up in some kind of way, you know? So one day I get up after having a meeting. We had a meeting. And I saw Mama Dia, and mind you, I'm not making emotional connections with the people of the tribe because I'm not with none of it. I don't even want to be there. Right. So one day I get up, and one of the guys at the time, they're like, Natureboy, you gotta come see this right now. And I get up, and I'm like, see what? I'm thinking it's normal. I'm thinking like, this shit is toxic as fuck. We see toxic shit all day, every day. Like, why we gotta... So I get up, lo and behold, it's Mama Dia in the tent. And I'm sitting there looking at her like, Natureboy, what you gonna do? Like, I'm done. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm just standing there like.
Let's rewind it a little bit. There's a story or rumor that with Mama Dia that Natureboy suggested or told her to stop taking her meds that would have been able to prolonged her life. Are you aware of the scenario in which that possibly could have been a situation, or do you know any details in with that at all?
I don't, because of the fact that all the relationships that Natureboy had with women, I was not in the midst of. I was not talking to anyone. I was locked away. I wasn't on social media either, and I wasn't even looking through messages to see if my family was contacting me. I wasn't looking for nothing. I'm like just locked away.
Day to day.
You know? So the conversations that he would have with Mama Dia, that's what they would talk about. I don't know what they talking about. And I wouldn't care to find out because he probably trying to fuck her. That's just honest from my perspective, because every other woman, he's trying to fuck them. But what I do know is the fact that he encouraged no medication prescription vibe for any and everybody. But I didn't know Mama Dia had a heart condition. I didn't know that she was taking medication for it. And I didn't know that that was something that she needed to do. You know, she actually came to me one day and she told me something like she had some pains or something, but I didn't know what to do for her or what to tell her because I didn't know her history. So I'm like, go ask Natureboy. And so when she asked Natureboy, when she went to Natureboy, he told her to go ground. And she's like trying to confide in me. And I'm like, I don't know what you need. I can't give you what you need. Like, I literally don't know, you know? So then at that point, that's when the story came up about how she had the heart condition and stuff like that. But because Natureboy was so gun-ho on not having medication, not even vitamins, he banned books at one point in time. We couldn't even bring books.
Oh, damn. Fahrenheit 451.
So she was telling us, we were in a meeting at this juncture. She was telling everybody about the heart condition because he had wanted her to bring it up so that everybody would know about it. She was telling everybody about it, but she kept saying as she was telling the story, but I don't need it. I always take it from now, here and then. I don't really take it that much. I've always lived with it. I take it every now and then, but that's not something that I need to depend on. She literally was saying how her family wanted her to take it and that she didn't want to. So she isolated herself from her family because her family was trying to force her to take the medication. So we are all thinking, probably even Natureboy at this juncture, that she didn't need it because she's doing everything not to take it, like in a sense. And
So when y'all go there and see her, and you look at Nature Boy and saying, "What are we gonna do now? What is he gonna do? Like what happens?"
He didn't
next?
do anything. He completely passed the buck. Like he wanted to know what Solar was gonna do. He wanted to know what Key was gonna do. Were you there at the time? Yeah, Natural. The guy he wanted to know what the other guys were gonna do about it.
Wow.
Because he didn't want to put his hand on it. He didn't want to have no type of affiliation with it. When nigga, you the cult member, you the cult leader. You know, so he told the other guys basically came up with with ideas, and whoever had the best idea, that's what they did.
Wow. So, but I have to ask you, was Nature Boy homosexual?
Yes, I do believe that. Yes.
Did you ever catch him in homosexual acts?
Yes, I did.
Like,
One day, we were living in Belize again. And one day, he always like had this friend, but he like always downplayed the relationship to me with the friend. So I'm thinking of the guy friend is just a guy friend. I'm thinking he talking to his guy friend like guy friends. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
on some homie shit.
right. Belize is a little different, but go ahead.
This is where the incident took place, in Belize. And he's on the phone with the guy. He's on a video chat with the guy. And he walks out the tent away from me to talk to the guy. And usually he walks away from me to talk to people. And I never really thought of anything. I was pregnant at the time. I never thought of anything like that. Like he would be talking about whatever behind my back or whatever. So I just was like, okay, cool. Like you going to talk on the phone, whatever. And then I catch him, like he thinks that I can't see him because he thinks I'm laying down in the tent. But something tells me to get up and look. So I'm looking and I'm looking and I watch him pull his thing out and put the phone camera on it. And I know he's on the phone with the guy. And I'm like, nobody else don't see this? So he comes back in the tent and I'm like, were you just showing that guy your penis? And he's like, oh no, that's my friend, da 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 da. You know, really massaged it. And I'm like, okay, I let it go. He still has a relationship with this guy. So I'm like, this is getting weird. So now that I know that he has the relationship with the guy, he wants me to be a friend with the guy. So now I'm talking to the guy and I'm noticing that the guy is getting more flamboyant every single time I talk to him. This nigga started wearing foundation. This nigga got the motherfucker. I don't even wear that shit on my eyebrows. This nigga got the Jerry curl going on, the motherfucking gel. I'm like, about 2 years after, like me consistently having a relationship with the guy or whatever, Nature Boy stops talking to him out the blue. And I found out 2 years later that he stopped talking to the guy because the guy wanted to fly him out from wherever we were in the tropics to where he was to have sex with him or whatever for money. And this guy, the specific guy, used to send him money before Nature Boy got into the carbonation thing. This guy used to send him money for sexual behavior, for sexual acts. And he would just send him money from whenever he felt like it, and that would be the gateway to having sexual relationships with Nature Boy.
Damn. You mentioned there was, no vitamins, no medication. The stories of STDs just running rampant throughout the carbonation situation. What is that in regards to where they say, hey, this is just, whatever's out here, there's no protection, everyone's just doing whatever, we all got whatever, and we're just going, whatever.
That was one of my biggest concerns being there, whether there was a idea of STDs or not. I was always like, Nature Boy, like you keep sleeping with these people, but you don't know what anyone has. Like you know what I got. You see what I'm saying? Like you know my history, but you don't know like none of these people's history. So every time I would leave, I would get tested. And every time I've left, nothing came back except for the last time that I went. Or the last time I left. The last time I left carbonation, there was chlamydia in my system and trichomonas in my system. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how, like what. I don't know who he slept with, who had it. But at that juncture, that's when I knew that he had STDs and other people did. But prior to that, that last moment in 2020, I had never got tested for any STDs other than what I naturally had in 2017, which was a case of HVS1 herpes or whatever, which I'm aware that all of us have that to some degree in our blood or whatever like that. It's just that whatever lifestyle that person is living, that antibody gets exposed in a certain type of way, and it is non-reversible. And so in 2017, I was diagnosed with that. But all of my partners have known that prior to sleeping with me, and I would tell people that, and I actually tell people that so I can get them the fuck away from me. And so these people decided to still sleep with me, but these people have never gotten tested and told me like, hey, I caught it from you, or I've contracted this from you. Me personally, I've never had an outbreak to say like what that experience is like. So I don't know. But after me leaving that last time, I got my system clean. I did what I needed to do, and I'm back to my original layout, and I kept it like that. And last time I got tested was 3 months ago, and my status is still the same to this day. Now, if somebody decides to be with me, knowing that I have the health history that I have, that's on them, but people know my situation because I'm like, I tell people, this is what it is. Period.
So, in regards to, I'm just curious as far as, at the height of carbonation when you were there, what was the ratio of women to men, would you say? And also, what ethnicity was the majority?
I always felt like it was equal. Like, they might have like 2 or more females at a time, or they might have 2 or more males at a time, unless like all of the women leave because they were getting abused in some kind of way. And then there were more men than women. I know when I was there in the beginning, the group fluctuated so much to the point where so many people had left at a time, and I was like pretty much one of the only women, like 1 out of 2 women. And then there were like 4 or 5 men. But that was like one time. But for the most part, like overall, because the group fluctuates so much, I could say it usually be like an equal amount of girls to guy, So it never made sense to me why all the women had to be with one man when you got all of these other men out here who desire to be in relations, who desire to, like why, like what is this? Like this is weird. And it came out to be that Natureboy wanted these men to be eunuchs. He wanted to cut their penises off so that they can just be a servant. And I'm like, bro, that's not realistic. How you gonna turn these men into eunuchs? That don't even make sense.
Game of Thrones, yeah, eunuch. Game of Thrones like a motherfucker. So
that's weird to me.
I have to ask you, even now, and of course, Solar's in the background. Would you be open to, even if, let's say, you, Solar, moving forward in the future, would you be back open to a polygamous situation, whether on his end or whether on your end?
No.
You're kind of done with that?
No.
Lifestyle?
From what I've learned about myself, from what I've studied about myself, I'm a monogamous person. If I'm going to give myself a title, if I'm going to put myself in a category, I'm a monogamous type of person. You throw me in a community, I'm going to be monogamous. Period. Anywhere I go. Because I just have a certain type of standard. I have boundaries. I have a whole heap of things that even if I wanted to be polygamous, it would literally have to be a situation that would literally have to present itself from God, and God would literally have to approve of it because it's just got to be ordained. Like, if that was the case. But at this juncture, and in the next year or 2, I don't see that happening at all because of the space and time that we are currently in. The trauma, like, it's just too much. It's too many other variables.
No, without question. You're older now, you've matured, and I'm just curious, lastly, if you could go back and talk to your 17-year, 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself to finish school. Finish college. Because still to this day, and even in this moment, I'm thinking about being in somebody's agricultural program.
Original boy.
And I still have yet to really do that because I have other responsibilities now that I have to think about. And I have to put certain things on the back burner to be able to eventually get to the point where I can focus on being in somebody's agricultural program. But I would tell myself that, and I will also tell myself to just study a bit more. Stop relying more on what people are saying, more than studying what they're doing, watching what they're doing, responding to things based off of someone's actions rather than what they're saying.
Man, without question. Well, Velvet, your story again is it leaves you with no words. But for those who do want to follow you, who do want to see kind of what you have going on, be able to root for your journey going forward, and be able to assist, maybe even provide some guidance or provide some knowledge. How can they get at you? How can they reach you? What's your social medias?
Well, my Instagram is one thing, but I really want to put my YouTube out there.
Oh, let's focus on that.
Yeah, Creole.femininity. New Orleans is considered Creole, so that's why I got the Creole _femininity, Creole.femininity. But I will tell people just to be aware of scammers because people have made multiple YouTube channels of the same name, and femininity is spelled different, maybe 2 I's, 2 N's, but Creole is spelled correctly and femininity is spelled correctly for my platform. Just make sure you have that period in between Creole femininity. But that is where I put the most of my content on, where I speak from, where I unravel, where I purge, where I be a mother, where I'm tapping into my crafts, my YouTube. That's what Creole.femininity.
Beautiful. And at this time, we normally ask any shout outs you want to give, man. Any people that you want to just kind of commend or give recognition to on your journey to this point?
The first person is my dad. My dad is no longer here. He transitioned in September of last year.
Condolences, definitely.
I appreciate that. I'm still dealing with that to this day. I was pregnant at the time when I found out, so I wasn't able to process it as readily as I wanted to. Neither was I able to attend like his funeral ceremony and things like that. And my family kind of hates me in a sense, like some of my family, not all of them, but there's some real trauma behind me not attending, the ceremonies and being there with my family and stuff like that. But I feel like my dad was really rooting for the betterment of me and the entire situation. He went out his way to really like shake me and be like, yo, like, this is what's really going on. And I don't think if it was for my dad that I wouldn't have certain realizations that I do now. I wouldn't have tapped into my womanhood the way that I have now. And I just want to thank him, And I've said it to him when he was alive, but now it's just different that he's not here. But I also want to thank my mom as well because my mom has instilled characteristics in me that's irreplaceable. Irreplaceable.
Shout out mama.
Irreplaceable. And I love my parents regardless. And that's how I felt when I was a child. Both of my parents, I love them. And of course, my other families,
You took care of a lot of them. I'm sure they're happy and I'm sure they appreciate.
Not to make it too cliche, but I do want to shout out Solar. And people be like, oh, you didn't. No, but he has really added value to my life. To the point where if we split up today, I would still be applying it to my life, like literally. And I can't say that about most of the people that I have come into contact with, and that's really hard for me to say because I don't want to trust nobody at this point. I don't want, because of what I've been through. But when it's real, it's real. When it's there, it's there. And when it's right, it's right. And this is what it is.
Well said, enough said, man. I got to say it, man. To do what you just did, man, is very therapeutic. I'm glad you were able to kind of get some of this out and give it to the world. Again, I want them to digest it and understand who you are and the kind of mechanisms and how you work. But I got to say it. Thank you for coming to the couch, man. This carbonation thing, again, of course, is an overall arcing story but to get your perspective on it, we really appreciate it. We have to say, man, you are a real life street star to even be here, and we do thank you.
Thank you for having me.